It's one of the great fighters of the Second World War. Realistically, it's only had quite a short exposure in the Second World War because obviously America entered the fray a little bit later, and it was an update to their current US Navy fighter, which was a Wildcat. It wasn't really up to the job, so the Hellcat was. It was a development of that, taking a lot of the positives and the strong points of the Wildcat and incorporating the very latest technology in there.
Well, before the guys said this is what we're going to do, I actually didn't know much about it at all. But then I was plonked on my desk was a whole pile of history books all about it, which I had to get my head into. Flicking through those, looking for pictures and information, and doing that, just started to read some of the stories from different pilots and the aircrew, and yeah.
Quite a short gestation period as well. It was a priority project. I think they signed contracts to build a prototype, and within 12 months the prototype was flying. And clearly it was going to have an impact because it was exactly what the US Navy pilots were looking for. During the development of the aircraft, they actually enlisted the help of existing US Navy aces who were asked what they would need from a new fighter, and clearly it was all about speed and range and firepower, and they got that in spades with the Hellcat.
It's kind of fascinating to begin to see this aircraft, how it is used and how a bit of life put into it before you get started is interesting, just to give you some enthusiasm to get going and kind of see the passion of people with this aircraft and what it did. It's, while for getting the shapes right and the design right is not necessarily crucial, for personal interest and fascination with it is great.
Working with the guys and Chris, you tend to pick up a lot more information, and because you have to know your subject area to a high level, you just know about it a bit more. Obviously not to the same level as the designer who's designed it, but yeah, you get an idea.
Because there's so many variations, I want to be a bit more confident that I'm doing the right thing, and so knowing that history is really helpful in that. I could easily find myself accidentally designing the wrong bits for the wrong mark from just looking at just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures that I end up like shifting through online, through books, through going to museums. Having some of that history to give a base, like foundation for what I'm aiming at is really helpful, and without that could end up going down the wrong way.
We've got a reputation for building some of the most famous aircraft in the Second World War. So we've got Spitfires, we've got Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs, that sort of thing. And this was the US Navy's premier fighter. And if you look at some of the statistics, certainly from an enthusiast perspective, there's nothing really to touch the Hellcat.
Even knowing why it's designed in certain ways can become interesting, knowing the way that the aircraft was used, what bits are really for. All of that can help me understand how the aircraft was put together and how the mechanisms worked and how the mechanics of its structure worked. Because you might not get all the information, like the perfect breakdown, but if I know what those bits are for, why they're there, then that does really help you to understand how it would have been put together.
It's really interesting because it's a different profile realistically. So if you display your built Hellcat next to your Spitfire, it looks completely different. It's a big radial engine fighter, and it was the king of the Pacific. It was just the mount of so many US aces. I think something like about 305. To become an ace, you need 5 victories or more, and this thing was just, it was just the ideal tool for the job.
Yeah, Telford was really fun this year. It was interesting to for this thing that I'd spent a few years on being quite so central to our part of the event that year. For a lot of the weekend, stood around our area, but didn't necessarily engage in loads of conversations. But it was kind of nice to hear all the conversations going on with the other guys in the team and hear mostly positive praise.
It was nice to be there for an unveiling, but definitely on the other side. I mean, I think there was a huge crowd there. about half an hour before, people were just waiting. But it was really good. I remember trying to keep that quiet for the whole time. That was quite a challenge. I mean, not to like let it slip up or anything like that.
Telford's it's a great place. I mean, obviously it's almost like a modelling mecca for people, and when we go every year, we've got you know, something new and interesting to tell people about. And this was a really big project, so we knew people would be excited by it. The difficulty is that we've got such a, you know, a modelling following, so to speak, that whichever model you're going to announce, you're going to delight some people and maybe disappoint others.
I think it was what I was expecting. We knew it wasn't necessarily a subject that lots of people have been expecting, and was a bit of a curveball for a lot of people. And so the reaction to it being, you know, lots of people said it's beautiful, but it's not necessarily the thing that I want. We kind of were not totally shocked by that.
It was really nice once the cloth came off the display plinths to see something that was a bit more of an interesting subject, I think, you know, just something that little bit different. I think people will definitely enjoy adding this to the you know, 1/24 scale range, and it'll certainly keep them occupied for a while because there's plenty of detail in this one.
What was really encouraging and really nice to see was so much positivity towards the design and the detail, maybe even more than I'd thought would happen. And actually lots of people saying, well, I probably wouldn't have thought to buy one of these, but after seeing it, I want to make it, and that was really lovely.
I can't claim to be as proficient as some of the other guys at Airfix here, and you know, if you've seen some of them, they're absolutely fantastic. Well, they're almost like miniature representations of the real aeroplane. I don't think I could match up to that, but I'll have a go. As long as we don't, you know, commit it to film, then we'll be okay.
Hellcat's definitely up there, but the thing is, it's one of those ones where if I look at it in a few years' time and I'm like, yeah, that's a really good kit, that's when I know it's a good build. I mean, well, I've done maybe about 30, 40 kits, and then if I think about a handful of them, I'm like, yeah, those are really good. That means I couldn't really do much better even now, and that's when I'm quite happy with it, and I'm pretty sure I'm really happy with the Hellcat, the second one anyway.
Probably I would go with that lead scheme if I was doing it, because of the you know, the history behind it and the fact that it represents what the Hellcat was all about. It was America's industrial might thrust into war and just producing you know, the ultimate fighting aeroplane.
The folded wing option is a big plus, and I remember people saying at Telford, oh yeah, that is pretty good, that the way you've done that, it doesn't look overly too big, I can get that somewhere or in a display case or something like that. So yeah, it's definitely a big plus to have a folded wing option, and plus you can do one wing folded, one wing open, depending on the space and what you actually want to get out of it.
It does get you a little bit excited to see when the kit gets released, to see what the reactions are when it goes out into general release, to see and to see other people's builds of them is something. It's kind of, for me, the next stage, getting it made, the tools made, and seeing it in plastic, to then it, like, our guys making a couple. The next stage is to see what happens when the rest of kind of the modelling community starts building them, and to see those built up is what I'm now really looking forward to.
I want to do one in flight, so it just makes it a bit more quicker. So I don't have to do so much of the inside and focus on that. I can do landing gear up. And then I need to mount it as well. I just need to figure out how to mount it as well. So yeah, looking forward to that one because it's a fleet air arm one. I think a lot of people will, I think mainly in home, most people will want to go for a fleet air arm one, which will look pretty cool because it's got a nice camo scheme.
And when you think about every single one of these new 1/24 scale models, when they come out, it's incorporating all the latest design and development technologies. I think people will be really keen to add this to their build schedules.
There's nothing else I can do now, so I just got to be excited for it. Nothing to be nervous for, because I can't change anything now. Yeah, no, really excited. The feedback so far from what I've seen online has been hugely positive, and so yeah, just excited. Just looking forward to it.
So this is where Airfix is right now in terms of the quality, the build, the design, and where they should be. I think it can only get better from here.
As time advances, so manufacturing technologies advance, and the design technologies available to our people, and we can incorporate that into these models. And you look at the levels of details in here, and it is just absolutely phenomenal. So, really, is a miniature version of the real aeroplane.
I think this kit represents the directions that we really want to go as Airfix. Is always pushing into higher detail, higher quality, exploring like the limits of what we can do within the kind of world of plastic modelling.
And it's definitely a classic, and we've got a British scheme in there as well, so we've covered all bases realistically.
The amount of effort has been put into it by not just the designer, but the team around them, and then obviously everyone else who's a part of the company as well to try and push it. I think it really shows like a big togetherness to try and get this kit out.
It was tough as all boots. It was a real war winner, and we've sort of replicated that in fantastic detail. And I'm sure that people will enjoy displaying this next to their Spitfires and Mosquitoes, and it might just get to the top of their favourite list as well.
I have a feeling we'll build one and then want to build another one, just like I did.
As long as there's possibilities to improve, we're going to keep going there and keep seeing what we can do.